now that we're being joined by a lot of great folks.
Yeah, that's great. We can get started.
Well, welcome everyone to the Sustainable Business Leaders Info Session. We are going to ask that everyone in attendance, if in the comments section you wouldn't mind putting your name, the business or nonprofit that you represent or work with, as well as your email contact. And everyone here, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Becky Kiefer, and I am the Waste Diversion Outreach Coordinator for Teton County ISWR. We also have Brenda Ashworth here. I'll let her introduce herself.
Thank you. I'm Brenda Ashworth. I'm the Superintendent for Teton County Integrated Solid Waste and Recycling. Tim, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Tim O'Donoghue here with the Riverwind Foundation. Really looking forward to giving you a good update on the next evolution of what's now called the Sustainable Business Leaders Program, and to hear from a very qualified group of panelists about the subject of purchasing and supply chain management. Brenda, do you want to start off? Let's see. Oh, and Mary Ellen, would you like to introduce yourself as one of our intrepid team members as well? Hopefully she's unmuted.
Hi, Tim. Hi, everybody. Thanks for calling me out. I'm a great supporter of this program. I've held previous positions in some of these organizations, and I'm just here as a volunteer and advice or extra hands if anyone needs it. But I'm just excited to see all these faces and see this program continuing to evolve and be successful.
Great. And thank you so much for all your effort over the years, Mary Ellen. Much appreciated.
Team effort for sure.
For sure. So Brenda, do you want to talk about the name change of the program?
Sure. We're very excited. This partnership with Riverwind has been phenomenal for this program. But we are changing the name of the RRR Business Leaders to the Sustainable Business Leaders. And that's what the name of the program is going to be going forward. We are rebranding, and really it's an effort to focus on all the other things that sustainable business leaders do and include that in the name going forward. So we're excited about that. Riverwind and ISWR are going to be working on the rebranding as we're moving forward. So we'll be doing more stickers so that it's more reflective of what the community and this group is really doing moving forward.
Great. Any comments or questions on the name change? All right. Well, part of the one of the steps that we've taken, ISWR and Riverwind Foundation, with the help of our steering committee made up of some of you, is to take some evolutionary steps with what's now the Sustainable Business Leaders Program. And one of those steps is creating a grant program where we have money available to give to selected organizations and businesses that are applying for the grants. And you might have seen an email. Hopefully you have seen an email. If not, of course, we can always resend it to you specifically or to the whole group of you about the grant program. And there's an application to fill out. And these applications are due on February 1st. And then the grants committee for the program will be reviewing the proposals and making announcements on who receives the grants awards on Valentine's Day, February 14th. We have $4,000 in the grant pool to be awarded to one or more recipients based on the proposals we received. So we were really looking forward to taking this next evolutionary step in the program, and we have some others as well. Does anyone have any questions about the grants program? Or like I said, we can always resend the email out to the entire membership of the Sustainable Business Leaders Program. And then you can always contact myself if you have any questions on the grant application. So Becky, why don't we just do that rather than entertaining a conversation about that at this point? We've already had some expressions of interest from some of you. Great. And then let's see here. Another step that was taken to create what we're calling now the Sustainable Business Leaders Program, formerly called the RR Business Leaders Program 2.0, is updating the survey. The survey, for which some of you haven't probably seen or did originally take some years ago, has been updated. And the reason we were updating, there's been quite a few changes going on in the sustainability community. When I say that, it's at the national and international level with sustainability. We felt that we really needed to update the survey to reflect and be relevant to the issues that are going on in the business world and the organization world when it comes to sustainability, knowing that there's a big umbrella to sustainability that includes not just the environmental pieces and criteria and standards, but also the social and economic ones as well. And so what you'll see when we do send out the survey again to all of you, which will be in the late February, early March timeframe, is that we have some new criteria or expanded criteria in the areas of health and safety. And that is somewhat in response to the COVID situation that has really forced all of us to look and practice health and safety measures a lot more rigorously than perhaps we did prior to COVID. We do have diversity, equity, and inclusion questions and criteria in the survey. And then we also have now a new section on conservation and resource protection. That's in addition to the ones that I believe you hopefully recall in the areas of energy efficiency and conservation, water conservation, transportation, of course, waste management and recycling and so forth. So look for that survey to come out in the late February, early March timeframe. And for those of you who do complete the survey and resend it in, we will provide you with the new logo and sticker that you can put in your establishments.
And can I ask, Tim, this is
yes,
separate from the BEST survey, right? This is just for the business leader program? Okay, great.
It is, Hannah. Yeah, that's as some of you probably know, we have two separate programs. We have the Sustainable Business Leaders Program, and we have the BEST program. And what I was just speaking to was referring to the Sustainable Business Leaders Program. I will say that, of course, the two programs are cousins to one another. And the BEST certification program is a program available to any member of the Sustainable Business Leaders Program in good standing. That survey has also been updated to be relevant and applicable to what's going on at the global level and as it applies to Jackson Hole. Thanks for that question, Hannah. Any questions or comments about the survey?
I have one other question about the survey.
Yes.
After we complete the survey, I know that it just sort of like helps with our renewal and the logo and everything, but then is there anything that we're able to look at in terms of comparative metrics across the businesses in Jackson that complete the survey?
Up to this point, Hannah, we have not provided such metrics. There's been some thinking of creating a community dashboard for sustainability, which would work with a report card, which is also in the works, where we can have comparative metrics as to, for instance, diversion rate. You know, how among all our business leaders, and now called Sustainable Business Leaders, how are we doing as a collective community of businesses and organizations committed to sustainability when it comes to diversion rate? So I think if that's what you're referring to, Hannah, there's been some talk about doing that. We're not quite at that point yet. But I think that would be something of value, hopefully beyond just curiosity's sake, that we can be using to influence prior policy and planning of programs.
Yeah, it's definitely what I'm referring to. You know, I'm working on like a lot of industry benchmarking, and I think it would be worth sort of thinking about like benchmarking within our own local context as well, to see how we're performing within this context, and also when we do implement specific programs, to use it as a measure of success, potentially to see, I don't know, outside of just our own business as well.
Yeah. In theory, that works well, and in some destinations elsewhere beyond Jackson Hole, that has worked. It does require fairly high level participation by all the businesses, in this case, all of us as sustainable business leaders, to take the survey and provide us with your answers. So that would be a valuable outcome if we can get really good participation from you all and all the other members who are not on the call now. Thanks, Hannah. Other questions, comments on the survey? And if not, then Becky, do you want to talk about membership annual fees?
I'm happy to. Thanks, Tim. So ISWR issued the 2022 annual membership invoices the last week of December. So those are out and due. You will notice that the membership dues have increased from $25 to $50. And that was a decision that was presented to staff from the steering committee. Again, the steering committee, as Tim briefly mentioned, is a subgroup of sustainable business leaders. They got together and thought that for a relatively nominal fee for an annual membership, that $50 wasn't too much of an ask on businesses. So you will see that slight increase in membership. And again, all of the dues do directly support the program itself. Through the technical reviews that staff has been doing. It supports the Hot Shot program, which supports new businesses coming online and recruitment, as well as membership retention. It also supports the business recognition and the new annual grant that we are submitting this year. So the dues do directly support each and every business. The dues can be sent to ISWR directly. You can either send a check in the mail to our PO box or give us a call over the phone. We do accept credit cards with the exception of American Express. And I will put all of our information in the chat box. And I'm open for any questions if anyone has them.
I've got a quick question. My name's Sam Allen. I'm very new to this. I'm with New West Knife Works. When I spoke with Mary Allen, I learned that we sent in our application and we're members as of 2017, and we need to get back on track. So how do I obtain an invoice for that? Or can I just call in for a credit card to just lock in the membership so that we can kind of move forward?
Sam, absolutely. I believe that the invoice was sent to the previous manager that oversaw the New West Knife Works relationship with the Sustainable Business Leader Program. So if you'd like, did you put your email in the chat box here? Perfect. I'll reach out to you directly after this meeting and we'll get you all set, okay?
Great. Any other questions about the membership fees and billing? And of course, your support in the program, maybe it doesn't need to be said, but I will say it anyway, has been very vital for us to be able to take these evolutionary steps in the program. So we really do appreciate your support by staying as members in the program, as well as, of course, the work that you're really doing the commitment you've made to be more sustainable in your operations. All right. The second part of our meeting, we have a group, we have 3 presenters or panelists that are going to be talking about sustainable purchasing. I'll just tell you who they are now, and then we'll introduce them in order. Keith Sproul, who's the managing partner with the Bentwood Inn. We also have Eric Hatch with Signal Mountain Lodge, and we have Aaron Cruzan from Rendezvous River Sports. And they're each going to be talking about what kinds of challenges and successes, their experiences that they've had in making their purchasing more sustainable. And as you all can probably understand, that purchasing is sort of the upstream side of waste management. One of the opportunities we have with influencing our supply chains is reduce the waste that comes with what we order, products and services, so that we are having less waste that's going into the waste stream and into our landfills as well. And this is a really hot topic at the national level with the working groups that I'm involved in. Supply chain management and influencing has become a hot topic because we know that with regards to things like carbon emissions and climate change and climate action, that supply chain has a significant impact or contribution to carbon emissions. And so one of the opportunities in managing supply chains is to talk about to your suppliers, to your vendors, about the sourcing of their products, where their products come from, how's it being transported, and what kinds of carbon emissions are associated with them. And many companies don't have that kind of information, but more and more do in response to the demand of consumers, such as ourselves, to wanting to know what the environmental and social impacts or sustainability qualities are of products and services. And so we have 3 presenters today who are going to talk about their stories and their experience with making their supplies chain more sustainable and how they work with their suppliers to do so. And so Keith, I believe you're on board. Are you able to unmute and talk? And I think Keith might have just dropped off. So what I'd like to do is oh no, Keith is back on. Keith, can you hear me? And are you ready and able to talk about your supply chain management and sustainable purchasing? All right. Keith was having some issues with being able to be audible. And he's asking if we're able to hear him, and I am not able to hear him. And Becky, I don't believe you are either. No. All right, Keith, you might need to call in. Do we have can you post Becky a phone number? Do you have a phone number that Keith can call in on? And so at least auditorily he can join the meeting. In the meantime, Eric, do you mind stepping up and being the first to talk about your work with purchasing?
Yeah, I'm happy to, Tim.
Great, thanks, Eric.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks guys for putting together this, kind of recap and moving forward what we're doing here. So my name is Eric Hatch and I work for Signal Mountain Lodge. Signal Mountain has a pretty good reputation of trying to do as much sustainability as we can. And Tim kind of asked us to talk about the purchasing side of things. So I've made some notes here so that I don't forget what I wanted to talk about. I think one of the main objectives or a good starting point for any sustainable purchasing program is to set a goal and to make a policy so you kind of know what you're driving at and what you're trying to achieve. For us, I think that one of the, benefits that we've had is from using like third-party standards. So picking a standard like For example, we use green sill for part of our, hotels and cabins and things. And, if you go online, you can look up the green sill. It's the GS33 standard, which is for hotels and stuff. And in there, they have a lot of different things where, they have different targets for, minimizing waste and reusing and recycling, of course, but they also have targets for energy consumption and like what kind of appliances to buy and what kind of lighting to use, the management of your fresh water resources, how to handle hazardous substances and things of that nature. Another third-party standard that we've kind of, vetted ourselves against was the BEST certification through the Riverwind Foundation. And I think, looking at other people's standards and looking at kind of what they, a lot of people have put a lot of thought and a lot of time and energy into, understanding what is sustainable and what are good goals to shoot for. So I think that, if you're making a policy for a company, if you're just starting out on this thing, I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel. I think that there's a lot of resources out there that can give you ideas and give you goals to aim for. So I would suggest picking a standard to try to weigh yourself against. Another key point that I thought, we talk a lot about looking upstream, but I think in order to look upstream, you really need to look downstream also. There's certain things that we're not able to recycle here in Teton County. And so before you go purchasing things that, maybe they are recyclable in Colorado or California or something, you need to talk to your people downstream too, to see what they can take and what's easiest for them to get rid of, because they have a challenge of upstream and downstream as well. So, like aluminum's hot right now, so if we can change things to aluminum, sorry, one sec. Gotta turn off my radio there. So yeah, I think important part of looking upstream is looking downstream. And I think that can help us to talk with, ISWR about certain things that we would like to see as a waste stream possibility. We tested aluminum cans of water, for example, in our general stores, and they did not sell whatsoever. For some reason, customers do not like water in aluminum cans. We tried the Tetra Pak packaging and it was sold well, actually. We were just curious if they would. We currently don't recycle Tetra Pak in Teton County. So, that might give us an idea of, hey, consumers are okay with this versus plastic because everybody loves their water in plastic for some reason. But we do use outside sources as well. And so if you're thinking about this for your company, there are some things like, TerraCycle is a company that will take a lot of products that we don't recycle here in the county. But then you've got shipping, you got to send it to like New Jersey. We use Take 5 for our yogurt cups. That's a Take 5 program. We have, different recycling companies for batteries. We use Stericycle for some of our like sharps and things. So there are options out there other than through the county to recycle if you have weird waste streams that you need to get rid of. But in looking at purchasing, I would recommend talking to the county, see what they want, see what kind of products they are hoping to get from us, and then you can talk to your suppliers and say, look, this is what I need this packaged in. And then other next point would be just, little by little, we want to do everything all at once. At least I know I do. And I have to remind myself that it's step by step. So just little things that you can introduce, like, our single-use cutleries and things are by request only. Straws are by request only. We moved all of our beer to aluminum only, so we don't serve any glass for beer. We've worked with a lot of local companies to get more kegs, like we're doing kegged wine and we're doing kegged kombuchas for our restaurants and things like that, so that we can have reusable packaging. And then, planning ahead and purchasing in bulk. So for like all of our soaps and shampoos and conditioners for the hotel, we buy in bulk for those. And then we have dispensers now mounted inside the shower, so we don't have single-use plastics for that. So, those are the things that, everybody's got different businesses. We're obviously in customer service and hotel type restaurant thing, and that's probably not what you're in, but, take a look at what what are you buying and how can you possibly divert or change? And then I guess my final point would be that the power of community really does help. The more of us that get on board and the more of us that demand eco-friendly products and services, the more that the market is going to provide those services, because that's just the kind of community that we live in. And so seeing new companies coming online is great. And I think that if all of us just continue to demand better products and services, then the market will represent that or reflect that. And I guess if anybody has questions for me, go ahead.
You know, Eric, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing, perhaps in the chat, you mentioned a couple of companies that you work with for specific kinds of products. Mm-hmm. Would it be appropriate for you to share at least the names of those companies in the chat box for everyone in case they want to take a look into that? Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. That'd be great.
Eric, I'm curious about the feedback you had about the water in aluminum cans. That surprises me.
Yeah, you know, people responded that it tastes funny. We did a thing where we gave away aluminum water for people to try to see kind of what the response was. And everybody seemed to say that they did not like the flavor. And there's this perception out there, I think, that if it comes in a plastic bottle, that it's clean and purified for some reason, and they just didn't seem to like it in the aluminum. It was strange. But we are, on that note, we are revisiting every beverage that we are selling out of our general store. We're going to look for an alternative to, you know, plastic, number one, mainly.
Other questions and comments? Questions for Eric, comments to the group?
Tim?
Yes, Sandy.
I just want to say thank you, Eric. Signal Mountain has been out there for a long time leading the charge. And I found your comments very informative, and congratulations on the many steps you're taking.
Yes, thank you. It started a long time before me, so I'm just kind of riding on the coattails here, but trying to keep programs going.
Great, great. Well, thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Our next panelist speaker is Keith Sproul, who I mentioned is with the Bentwood Inn. Keith, would you like to? Are you now on board?
Well, I think I'm on board verbally.
You are.
I got an IT department for my work computer that we can't figure out whatever my little video issue is. So apologies. You're not missing that much by not seeing things. So what I discussed with Tim was sharing a few of our kind of triple R hacks. But I did before moving on. Thanks, Signal, so much. We definitely take inspiration from the big boys in our little operation here. But I did want to share, I work for an international luxury travel company full-time in addition to owning the Bentwood. And that issue of plastics is so real, and it just permeates the mindset of so many travelers, especially the Americans. We have moved a lot of our lodge operations in Africa to Lifestraw water filters, and they take out 99.99% of bacteria, 99.99% of viruses. And we can demonstrate this, and we can hold up the dirty and hold up the clean and talk about all the testing and the results, and they will still reach for a plastic bottle instead of the water that comes through this filtration process. It certainly works in a lot of the environments where we introduce this as sort of our philanthropic investment, and that includes every school that borders the Serengeti, borders the Masai Mara, Amboseli. But we cannot get the American travelers to distance themselves from those plastic bottles. Okay, that was a bit of an aside. Relative to the Bentwood, one of the things that we've begun to do is give guests a bag, somewhat typical to what you would carry to go into the grocery store, only it's upcycled material. And it comes from a firm in New York from the fashion industry that does this. I'd like to show it to you. I'll send a picture around. You know, it says pretty classically the Bentwood Inn, but we associated with the message that, you know, we have got a ban on use of plastic bags. It's now for a fee in town, and we encourage you to use this bag during your stay, and please take it with you. So it is an amenity in the room. It costs us a few bucks, but we see it as an investment and it aligns with our values. And you know, the guests that are into it are really into it. And there are plenty that just leave them sitting there and they don't go shopping or they just don't care. But we make the effort to put it in front of them. At night, you serve a little bit of a wine and cheese, a house pour, but we've really taken to serving the farmstead ciders.
Hey, excuse me, Keith. Keith, Tim
Yeah.
here. Your voice is a bit distant. Is there any way to increase your volume or be closer to your phone?
I can certainly hold it closer like this. Does
Okay,
that help?
much better. Thank you.
Okay, apologies. We do a wine and cheese at night, a house pour, and we have moved to offering some of the farmstead cider as well. And really, the success is it's fun to taste, but it's a great story. To the extent that they're collecting, you know, the crab apples in an environment, urban settings that are creating human-wildlife conflict, and by not having these apples rotting on the ground, and making good use of them, it reduces the wildlife going into those urban settings. We love the wildlife out here we are in the county, but taking, you know, these crab apples and making it into something that gets fermented and enjoyed, it makes for a terrific conversation with our guests. So we encourage the diversity in that regard. One of the other hacks that we've employed, I was going to show you, Keurigs get a bad rep. There's just a lot of throwaway associated, but there are little plastic Keurig cups that can be filled with whatever coffee you want, caffeinated, decaffeinated, whatever variety. And it allows us to enable our guests to come down and grab a cup anytime they want without having to waste a pot. But it's in a recyclable little plastic container that they utilize and we refill, and that I think it's taken away the bad rep that Keurig gets. Finally, as a small business, and maybe this is true for others on the line as well, it is really hard to manage compost in our environment up here. Turning it, making sure that it's warm enough, getting staff to buy into it, it's a challenge. Wild Farm has been our solution. They, for a fee, come and pick it up. It's not a problem to sort of do the source separation in the kitchen, carry it out into a holding container. In the winter, we make sure it's inside so it's not freezing in the garage. But I can't tell you how many different years upon years of effort we've gone through trying to get staff to buy into the turning and the composting process. And Wild Farm has been a fantastic solution for us. For a small fee, it does serve its purpose, and we can still represent that we're taking as much of the organics out of the waste stream as possible. And last but not least, I can't hang up without saying how much we love vertical harvest. We tell that story time and time again and share it with our guests. And I promise you, if we had a buck for every guest that consciously went to see vertical harvest, we'd be doing pretty well. We're super happy for the relationship and the fact that y'all are in our community. So a few little hacks and a few little purchasing that we do that we feel like contributes to the story, whether it's the bag, the farmstead cider, the discussion about vertical harvest, the discussion about our composting. It contributes what we think is a really important part of this whole process, which is, consciously striving to educate our guests. There's an old philosophy that when they're on vacation, their minds are a little bit more open to change, a little bit more open to new ideas, instead of, being caught in their 9-to-5 routines. And so we try to fill that opening with as much good information as we possibly can.
Well, thanks, Keith. I think similar to what I asked of Eric with Signal Mountain Lodge, if you have handy during the course of our call, or at least can put in the names of who you just mentioned that you use locally, that you referred to in the chat box, that would be great for people to see those names too. But in the meantime, yeah, great, Keith. Does anyone have any questions for Keith, comments about what Keith has talked about?
I just had a comment in regards to water, and this kind of more goes back to Eric. Is at the ski club this year, they have liquid death, which is it's all it is canned water, but the kids seem to like it because it's called liquid death, and they gave it a bunch of cases to the ski club for free, and I see them kids drinking it all the time, and I'm like, what is liquid death? And it's just water. So might look into that, you know, the name.
Aaron, do you think that's a generational thing? I don't know if
Yes.
I'd be readily apt to be drinking liquid death.
I think it is. I thought it was worse than Red Bull when I first looked at it, but then I realized it's just water.
Okay. Other comments or questions for Keith? By the way, we'll have an opportunity after Aaron, this is a good segue. When Aaron has finished speaking, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions that can apply to any of the three or all three of the presenters. So, Aaron, would you like to speak? Tell us about your story and what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess RRR has been kind of we've been involved with that since our founding, 27 years ago. And it kind of mostly stems from me having a grandfather that never threw anything away, and just learning from him, that all these potential uses. And it does actually drive some of my staff crazy sometimes. And I've actually made people go into the dumpster before to pull things back out because they have a use. But it's also kind of given us a reputation in the industry, in that a place that you can always go to find an old part to an old boat that's maybe hasn't been made for years. And if you look behind Rendezvous River Sports, there's a boat graveyard, which we have kind of people bring us old broken kayaks. And there's always useful parts available to them, plus the plastic itself. And we actually just got a bunch of kayaks from Signal Mountain that they were done with that we're going to repair and try to find new homes for. So that, that's one kind of where our philosophy comes from. But also our main thing that we said we're going to do right when we started is that we're always going to focus. And I'll step back for a second. I'm looking at two sides of things, because we're a retailer, but we're also an outfitter, and our business is pretty much equal for both of those, on our guided trip side and our retailing. So for retailing and outfitting both, we decided kind of right when we started that we were going to only focus on durable, high quality goods. We're not going to sell anything that is not designed to last for a long time. So we've had numerous times where people have brought something like cheap inner tubes and things like that we could sell hundreds of in the summer, and we've said no, we're not even interested in that. And we do sell inner tubes, but they cost $150, and they're essentially designed to last for 10, 20 years if they're taken care of well. The plastic boats that we have one boat in our fleet that is actually over 30 years old. And this is something definitely learned being neighbors with Barker Ewing over the years, because they had boats that were from the 70s that were very well taken care of. So, starting with the idea of having really, really high quality merchandise that it's designed to last for a long time. The second thing is also just, we are fortunate because a lot of the stuff that we sell is actually made in the United States. Almost all the kayaks, the paddles are made stateside. And so we have pretty close relationships with them and with our manufacturers. And really focusing on large bulk orders. We have actually a truck at Rendezvous River Sports coming in right now. When the truckloads come of kayaks, that's a lot less packaging. If they're shipped, anything shipped common carrier usually has 2 to 3 times the packaging involved. Same thing with paddles. If we're getting large boxes on pallets, it's considerable less amount of packaging. So that's another thing that's been really helpful. And then also kind of being a constant, we have a lot of manufacturers that are, share our desire to have less packaging. We've had some that have less control, especially if things are made offshore. But by being like a constant kind of pain in the neck with those manufacturers, if we like their product, but we don't like the way it's packaged, if we kind of constantly remind, I'll even take a picture of a box where I'm opening and being like, why does every little thing need to be wrapped in an individual non-recyclable plastic bag? And over time, these companies have listened to us, and I'm sure they're getting hit by other businesses like ours. But recent package from NRS that used to package everything in unrecyclable plastic bags had no plastic whatsoever. So it was clear they are listening. Starboard Stand-Up Paddleboard is another company that's shown a big commitment in that they're only using cardboard for packaging. They're using no foam anymore, no plastic. So that's a big step. And even if you think sometimes it's not going to make a difference, I've found that, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Sometimes some of the people higher up at the company don't even know exactly how their product is arriving to the end user or the retailer. And when we can show them that, sometimes they will be willing to kind of go up the line and help make a change in the way their products are packaged and sent to the retailers. As far as we've actually asked certain manufacturers just to say, hey, well, we understand the way you usually do that. For us, we don't really care. It's all right if, for instance, a kayak arrives with maybe a couple scratches on it because it has less packaging. It's going to get those scratches right away when it's being used. And so it's not worth it being wrapped in foam or plastic or extra plastic to protect it. Another thing we've also done is when boats arrived, we found that especially the shipping companies and the moving companies like Black Diamond, Mountain Movers, they are usually more than happy to get things like blanket or boat socks, or if bubble wrap is used, they're really happy to have that stuff because they can reuse it when they're moving people's stuff around. And so we'll usually just take that to them and give it to them for free. And also now it's great that the ISWR is accepting plastic plastic bags to be recycled, because we get more than I'd like of that, but at least we have a place to put it now. On the outfitting side, we've been guiding trips up in Yellowstone for many years, since 1994 actually, and on the Snake River. And because we're doing multi-day self-support trips, how much we can bring and not having garbage to pack out is always been really a challenge. The more we bring in, the more we have to bring out. So that's something that we focused on for a long time. But when we started as a concessionaire in Grand Teton, we pledged to have 90% waste diversion, which is really hard. I don't think we've quite hit it yet, but we've come pretty close. And like Eric had mentioned, you really have got to look upstream and downstream when you're considering what you're going to be using. But a couple things that we found is a little advanced education for our guests in talking to them about what they're bringing with them on trips, and also educating them that Teton County is a headwaters county, and we have some of the best water in the world. So we usually give them a Rendezvous River Sports water bottle. And when people come into the store or come out on a trip and say, hey, can I buy some water? We will just say, you don't need to. You can just, get a water bottle and fill it up at the tap. And it's probably going to be of as good or better quality than what you could go buy at a store. So trying to discourage that. And, we've always done that with bags. We've never offered bags to people because we just said, you don't really need a bag. If you really want something to take it away, we can find you an old box or something like that. But what Eric and what Keith also said about us using this opportunity as far as like, we have guests for 3 and 4 days to help educate them about some of the changes they can make in their lives to reduce, what they're using and to recycle what they can't reduce is super important. And as I was saying, it starts with with our confirmations. When somebody books a trip, we kind of explain to them like, look, Teton County doesn't even have, we don't even have a landfill. So try to think about what you're bringing with you. We don't, avoid any single use items. And then we're going to be following the zero waste policy on the entire trip. And people are usually really pretty interested in that, and like, I think, what Keith said, people are a little more open-minded when they're on vacation. They're kind of, looking, they're looking to us for as their interpretive resource for what they're seeing. And this is part of it, in not just talking about reduce, reuse, recycle, but also, the importance of, how lucky we are to get to be in this fairly, untrammeled and fairly, intact ecosystem, and how, we're lucky of all the work that's been done in advance so we can enjoy this and experience this. And then that it's our responsibility to be good stewards of the area, and that, conservation and stewardship are dynamic things. They're not something you can ever rest your laurels on. So it's something we talk about a lot on our trips. And, other solutions we've found are, we've been working with Heidi Cooper Farms a lot and using reusable containers to get the fresh veggies. Unfortunately, we were really happy with Whole Grocer as a partner, and they really kind of shared our goals of, less packaging. Whole Foods so far has been a great disappointment. They're using a lot more packaging, a lot more clamshells. So I don't know, I think we'll start having to try to make a few more waves with them and start asking them, why can't they go back to some of their other practices that they were doing when they were a local business. But we're looking for any opportunities to try to eliminate the packaging that comes with the meals. We of course are using TerraCycle, and that really is helpful. I think one thing that we'd like to see our community invest in, and I'm just learning about it more, but seems like there's more opportunity with the number 5 plastic, with the plastic tubs, that so many things are coming in nowadays. It kind of blows my mind why some things need to be packaged in these at all. But I know there's been a lot done with using these plastics and using them in roadways and in asphalt paving. And seeing as we have a lot of paving and repaving that goes on a regular basis here, I think there's probably an opportunity for Teton County to potentially invest in some of the infrastructure that would be needed, so we could be taking care of our own type 5 plastic, which is currently something we're not able to recycle now. So, I mean, that's something I'd like to see as a discussion moving forward, especially right now, since the governor is looking for ideas, and also, since there is some federal money coming down the line, this would seem like a really good opportunity to look at other ways we could be using things that are hard to recycle in our area. And that's one that I'm just kind of starting to learn about, and be nice to hear more of what ISWR knows about that.
Well, Aaron, I mean, I'm familiar somewhat with all the different things and you're doing now and ideas you have to improve but I do need to allow people to ask you some questions and
I'm done.
comments if possible. But yeah, tremendous work and a tremendous amount of energy that you, as well as, of course, Eric and Keith, have been putting into your work. Does anyone have any questions for Eric and what he was just speaking about, or any comments that you'd like to ask or share? If I may, Aaron, you mentioned that with some of the packaging materials that you do get, that you're donating them to other local businesses or organizations. Is that correct? And if it's correct, would you want to say a little bit more, take a minute to say what companies or businesses those are?
I did say that, in particular, the moving companies, because some of the boats will come in like really high quality bubble wrap, or one of the kayak manufacturers, they must be near like a furniture manufacturer, because everything comes wrapped in these blankets that look like they're used in like furniture manufacturing for couches or something like that. And the moving companies really like those. We've also, gotten creative with the old kayak plastic. I don't know if you go by the middle school, there's a bus shelter made out of old kayak plastic, and the Art Association has taken those, and we've used some old broken boats. We've given to like a preschool as a kind of a toy to have out in the yard, and also to the Children's Museum. So
great. Thanks, Aaron. Mary Ellen, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, are there any other recipients that you're aware of in the community that will take items to reuse that you're aware of?
My experience with that is that it varies. Places like the Children's Museum can be really great, but then it rotates. Like this week, they need lots of glass jars for a certain project, and then the next week they need lots of cardboard or whatever. So it really varies. We had, Becky, a pretty useful publication a couple of years ago, the Reuse Resource Guide. And even though that is not, it's a printed document or a fixed document, it still is a pretty good starting list for if you were going to look through places and get ideas of where they've taken things in the past. Because when you start looking at it, there are a lot of resources here. There's just not a straightforward set program for who takes what when, but it's worth looking around. I think somebody posted about the Facebook online garage sale. Eric, I think that was you. That's a great, more of a living resource where it is real time.
We have had success with that. It's been crazy. Like, at the end of the summer, I think we had about 100 pickle buckets that we were trying to decide what to do with. And I put it on Facebook Marketplace and it was gone in like 2 hours.
Yeah, it's an easy one people will take.
People want everything, I guess.
Yeah, and you just have to get lucky and find the right timing. But
working.
Thanks. Does someone have a comment or question, please?
I was just going to say too, but working with local companies on getting rid of stuff like, like Aaron mentioned that, we had kayaks that we weren't going to use anymore. They were kind of getting beat up that we had for, a decade. And we talked with the city kids and they needed more kayaks for their program. And then, so, Aaron volunteering some time to work on the boats and us volunteering to give the, the product away. So, working with your local companies, I think is a good way to repurpose stuff too.
Great.
I've got a
Yes, Sam.
couple questions. And Aaron, thank you for all your input. Because New West Knife Works, we're on the side of production and retail. So it's very interesting to hear you talk about the retail side of the business. In particular, the durability, high goods, because that's where we fall in. We're creating these knives to last a lifetime. And obviously that comes with these certain, emissions, steel production, hazardous waste, if we're doing the right things with recycling. But it kind of seems like our main objective, because, you know, we just put together a sustainability committee a couple months ago with the intention of putting this in action the beginning of this year. And this is kind of our first step, but it's more of our, how do we offset, you know, these emissions that are kind of tangible, intangible to us, as far as the steel being manufactured in New York. But also, you know, we're an online retailer as well, you know, fulfillment. So having that, you know, options for recycled packaging materials, but things we've done in the past that kind of triggered me to kind of ask some questions is obtaining those, you know, reusable resources. You know, we have a couple individuals over here in Victor that will drop off wrapping paper, packaging stuff that, you know, was delivered to them, so we can reuse it, put it in our boxes. We've worked with the newspaper in getting these giant rolls of recycled newspaper so that we can just tear that off, put it in a box. But I was curious on, you know, with this network of individuals here, if anybody had any other ideas of those certain businesses that are getting rid of that brown paper. You know, recycling is great, but I like to reuse that stuff more than try to recycle it. I feel like that goes a little further. But if anybody had any ideas as far as local businesses that would, you know, try to be getting rid of that stuff, because we have seen in the past, you know, the newspaper will run out and then we have to order it, and it's heavy, which, you know, hurts us with emissions and transport, as well as, you know, it's expensive. And that's one of the things I feel like we can do here at New West is we can save money by using more reusable, environmentally friendly materials. So if anybody has kind of insight on that, that would be great. And then our next step is, I feel like, efficiency, you know, in production, being more efficient, having a more efficient facility, which I'm going to dive into the world of getting an energy audit here so we can kind of figure that out as well. But I'm, you know, kind of having diarrhea of the mouth right now. This topic gets me really excited. And so it's hard for me to take all these ideas and then streamline it and go with that first idea, that first step. So if anybody has any insight, that'd be great.
Yeah, great. That's a great commentary, and in a way, Sam, that's a common challenge I think for all of us, is what is a first step that can be into a process that might be very labor intensive and overwhelming, is methodically going through the supply chain. Does anyone have any responses to what Sam was talking about?
Well, I mean, we would definitely, like, we could provide on a regular basis, like a large clean box full of, you know, brown paper or packaging material that we get coming in, that we'd either be recycling it, you know, we could do that pretty easily. Not 100% of the year, but certainly all spring and well into summer, that, you know, we could just give to you guys. And it would be kind of, I mean, I don't know if we could actually develop a network, but that's potential to be like, well, where could, you know, it takes up a lot of room, but we certainly could put boxes together just of packaging material to be reused. And I know one thing that NRS is doing, Northwest River Supplies, is they have this little label called the ugly box, where they will send out a box that's a reused box that might not look so good, but they're reusing the box instead of using a brand new box. And I think people like that idea.
You know, in Victoria, if you look in the chat box, is asking a question about what about the post office or local couriers or a local drop-off site? Has anybody looked into that or have any feedback on that? That's worth looking into. You know, one of the things that is probably becoming obvious to all of us is there a mechanism or a program that can be established that everyone can interface with to say this is what they have that's available for recycling, and see who would be willing to pick it up. And up to now, it sounds like the Facebook I think it's, you said the, Eric, the open market with Facebook or a Facebook group would be probably the only thing that I'm aware of that's a mechanism we can be using. Yeah. So any other comments or questions for our panelists or in general? We're running over by about 3 minutes or so, but we can use another minute in case there's something that someone has a burning question or issue that would like to talk about. Well, so, you know, in summary, I'm looking at, I've made some notes, and Eric, a couple of points that you made was to select a standard. So, you know, I think the question is everyone wants to influence their supply chain, but the question that immediately follows is, how do you do that? I mean, process-wise, how do you do that? And a first step is to select a standard to use. It could be something as simple and if you will, as introductory as the Sustainable Business Leaders criteria, perhaps moving forward with the best standard criteria, but there's also other criteria out there that are specifically for products and services that I think a Google search could reveal. So Eric made the point about selecting the standard used as a basis for evaluating your products and supply chain. I think all three, Keith, Aaron, and Eric, you talked about using local companies. And in the chat box, you all have provided names of some local companies I think that all of us could be considering and seeing if it makes sense for the work that you're doing as a business or an organization. Aaron, I'm particularly interested in how you actually took pictures of the products that you're receiving and the packaging that came with them, and sending them all to the representative of your vendors who may not be aware of all the waste that their product shipping is creating. And that seems a very reasonable thing to do, is take a picture and send it on to your vendors saying, can you do better? And perhaps with sharing a couple of the Sustainable Business Leader or best criteria that's saying, here's what we're looking for. Can you do better with what you're sending us? That seems to me a very practical means to contact the vendor, a supplier, and ask if they can make their supply chain, or at least the product that they're sending you, a little bit more available. So I think there's some very reasonable initial steps. Supply chain management is not something for the weak of heart to undertake, because it is labor intensive, especially if you have a lot of suppliers and vendors. But as you can tell from our presenters and some of the others who've spoken, that we're all into this together, and an evolutionary step for our community and perhaps an opportunity for an entrepreneur is to create a co-op, a purchasing co-op, which does exist in other places, including in Bozeman, to see if, as I think Eric, you said, if we as a community can come together and influence our suppliers in the power of numbers to do so. So a purchasing co-op is not a small undertaking, but I'd like to think that in time, our community will be able to leverage the number of businesses and organizations and people are purchasing products, perhaps residents as well, to affect our suppliers. So that's something to mark for a future conversation. But any other comments as we close today in our webinar? Great. Well, everyone, thank you so much for taking an hour and 7 minutes of your Tuesday to join our information session. We will have more of these in time to address specific issues, as well as, of course, give you updates on our program. So, and I want to thank ISWR, who has been tending to the Sustainable Business Leaders, formerly known our Business Leaders Program, now for 15 years. And your businesses and mine and my organization are very thankful that they had the foresight back in 2005 and 6 to start this program. So thank you for ISWR for the work that you do, and everyone, thank you for the work that you do as well. And we will be in touch via email with future opportunities. Feel free to contact me if you have information, questions about the grant program. You can reach me at riverwind@wyoming.com if you have any questions about the grant program. So again, thank you very much. Everyone have a great day.